Imagine for a moment that you had seen your good friend who you've been hanging out with for a few years, Jesus, maliciously betrayed, falsely accused, and then brutally murdered by a whole bunch of Roman soldiers. And with good reason, you strongly suspect that you are next. What do? I'll tell you what I'd have done. I'd have split. I'd have been out of there quicker than you could say jumping jack flash. I would have made sure that if I'd have had a beard, I'd have shaved it. If I didn't have a beard, I'd have grown one. We all get some kind of plastic surgery and none of us speak to each other again. Because I would have been afraid that they were coming after me, and so I want to be alone. But in the very next scene after Jesus' death, what we discover is his disciples, his friends, his followers, the people that have been part of his crowd. Well, we find them together. We find them in a room, scared for sure, locked in for sure, but together, eating together, thinking together, talking together, working it through together. Because if they've learned anything from Jesus over the past few years, it's that being a disciple isn't a solo sport. It's not an individual activity. It's something that we do together. Throughout the New Testament, there are all these different pictures and analogies of what it is to be together on the journey of following Jesus. Sometimes it's called the church, and that actually is a word that means the called out ones, not just one person doing on their own, but the ones who do this stuff together. Other times there's an image of a body, and a body only becomes a body when lots of different limbs are joined together. If you have just a leg lying on a table, well, I mean, first off, that's a bit of a problem, but it only becomes a body when you join it with a hip and a spine and an arm and an eye and a brain and a finger. All these things together become something different. It's like another Bible writer uses the analogy of a family. Of course, there are individuals who make up the family, but when they come together, when they are united, and to be honest, even when they're separated, they are somehow still together as a family. Yes, some of them are a little bit awkward and embarrassing. Yes, there's the one that you have to give the invite to the wedding out of duty rather than desire, but you're family. We call it around St. Mark's a village. It's what happens when the disciples gather together. And I wonder if in our culture, which is hyper-individualized, where my newsfeed is dictated to me by my likes already, where the things that I already agree with are reconfirmed on the news that I watch, on the programs that are suggested to me because they know my opinions and my desires already, where I can get the food to be delivered to me and my house without having to go out and interact with anybody else, where my truth and my thoughts, well, they are just as valuable as anybody else's. I wonder if in our hyper-individualized society, togetherness, village, being together around the table, well, I wonder if that's not the most powerful declaration and description of God. Now, let's be honest, a village is fantastic, but it's also frustrating. Up until now, in our exploration of what it is to grow as a disciple of Jesus, we've focused on two things which are largely based around, well, they're based around me, they're based around myself. I have to spend time investing in my core. I have to make sure that my core strength and understanding of God is good, and I'm feeding into that, I'm exercising that. And then after that, I've developed a little car share with a few other people who I walk through life with, journeying together and exploring faith and life and being vulnerable about the things I find difficult, being encouraging to others, working out my faith journey as I go. This is the first corporate expression of my faith. This is the first time when I've had to put up with other people. Even in the car show where there's been a couple of other people, well, they're people that like me, they're people that are like me, they're people that I don't have to do too much work to get along with. But as soon as you join a village, well, let's be honest, you have to put up with other people's personalities. You have to put up with other people's pace, which is always going to be too fast or too slow for you. You have to put up with other people's preferences. They like the music too loud. They might like the music too quiet. Somebody keeps making this coffee way too strong. You have to put up with other people's politics. And as we do all this, let's be honest, it can be tricky. Really early on at the start of the church in the New Testament, somebody in fact has to write to these bunch of Christians and say, don't give up meeting together as you have been doing. But why had they already given up? Because dealing with other people's pace and personalities and preference and politics, well, that's all tricky. It's all a little bit difficult. It's all a little bit weird sometimes when one person's faith and understanding of God has led them to this political position or this personality preference, and your understanding of God, well, that's led you to the polar opposite political position or understanding of preference. And having to sit round a table together to be united is so counter our cultural, it's hard for us to do. But as much as the village is frustrating, it is way more fantastic. It's in the village that I get to feel completeness. Archbishop Desmond Tutu made famous this phrase, this understanding of who we are. The concept is called Ubuntu, and it means that I am only complete through my relationship with you, and you are only completely human through your relationship with me. If we're just remaining isolated individuals, then we're not complete. It's when we are together that we get more. When I arrive in the village full of grief, I am able to feel the comfort and compassion and care of others because I'm in the village, not staying outside of it. Those of us who are in the village, who are creative, get to meet others who are in the village, who are problem solvers. And when the two of those people get together, then all kinds of wonderful things can happen. Those of us in the village who are hosts and who are great at laying on a party and putting on a great spread and washing up afterwards and thinking of ideas, well, we need the other people to come and be the life and soul of the party and bring the songs and the dance, even though they don't understand how to work the dishwasher afterwards. We need each other. Those of us who are children in the village, well, we need role models ahead of us on the journey of life who can encourage us and show us what it is to grow up as a person of faith or a person of just kindness and goodness. Those of us who are a little bit older and have got a little bit more grey hair, well, we love having the younger folk around that we can encourage, that we can be role models to, that we can sit with and help them navigate the complexities of life which they're dealing with and struggling with. In the village, the sum total of what the village is magnified from just the sum of its parts. It's the village that has the ability to feed a city. It's the village that has the ability together, combined with all the gifts and personalities and traits and skills that make up that village. It's the village that has the ability to combat a dark, evil injustice and to make things good and right again. It's in the village where I find myself comforted and encouraged. It's in the village where I find myself taught by others ahead of me. It's in the village where I find a place to serve and to sit with others. It's in the village where I'm enthused towards other things and I grow, being pushed on, spurred on, encouraged and taught by others, just as I get to do the same for even more. The village, frustrating as it can be, is fantastic. And it's super difficult to grow as a disciple in maturity or depth outside of the village. Just as the body is complete with all of its parts, just as the family misses and grieves the absence of somebody who was once part of it, so it is with the village. You are an integral part of it. It's not complete without you. So my encouragement, and this isn't a pitch for St. Mark's, because some of you will have a village that isn't St. Mark's. My encouragement is to value the village. Keep showing up, keep committing to the village. There's always going to be something better on TV. There's always going to be some adverse weather conditions that make it more comfortable to stay inside. There's always going to be a job on your list which you haven't ticked off yet. There's always going to be that whisper of insular. There's always going to be a difficulty in our minds or our spirits to get over the hurdle of attending. But once you commit and develop a way, a rhythm, a practice, a habit of attending the village, well, you move from that place of attending to participating and contributing, and you become a key member of the village. You become somebody who, without you, then the village just doesn't work. And then you move from participating to belonging. You feel like home. You can't imagine life anywhere else apart from in this village. It doesn't feel like you're complete unless you are a part of the village, and you realize that you have become a part of the village as much as the village has become a part of you. And when we join this together with strengthening our core and developing key relationships where we're able to, in our car shares, challenge each other, encourage each other, guide each other, cheer each other on, be with one another throughout life, and then as the village we come together, well, all these things are beautiful. They all work together, and all of them help make us a stronger, more mature, more joyful disciple of Jesus.